Hi everyone, my name is Eran Kinsbruner and I would like to welcome you into today's webinar. And today's webinar is quite exciting and actually quite technical as well. And the title is How to Select the Right Selenium Tools to Boost Your Test Automation. And I think that this is a very timely topic. That's why I decided to bring this topic to you guys. Since we are seeing a very important shift in the market today with different tools, different technologies. Selenium is no longer the only option in the market when you're looking at cross-browser test automation testing. So I think that having all the right considerations in front of you, if you are just starting a cross-browser testing project, or if you are inside a project that isn't really moving in the right direction from test automation coverage and stability, I think you will find a lot of the content in today's webinar very useful. Before we start, just a word about myself. So my name is Eran Kinsbruner. I am the Chief Evangelist and author at Perfecto, which is a Perforce company, blogger, speaker in multiple conferences. You can find me all over the place on social and my personal blog, and also on the perfecto.io blog. So feel free to reach out to me in any channel that you like. Some housekeeping information. So this webinar, like any other webinar, this is recorded. This webinar is being recorded. The slides and the recording will be made available to all of you who sign up for this webinar. And in addition, we have the Q&A panel. So during the webinar and also afterwards, feel free to engage and send any question that comes into mind. With that, let's drill down into the actual content. And in today's agenda, what I'm going to discuss are the following. So I'm going to talk about some, at least the first part of the conversation will be about the persona. And I think that the persona is one of the root causes of the shift that we are seeing in today's cross-browser landscape, if you like. Then I'm going to drill down into how today's landscape actually looks like from an open source and commercial tools perspective. What's out there, from at least the leading solutions. So if you are, in a search for something, some solution, I think you will see all the major tools together with some trends that are associated with these tools in this presentation. I'm also going to touch a bit about, at least from my point of view, what should be the considerations when you are trying to select a cross-browser testing solution. I'm also going to touch a bit about the testing visibility, role or importance in the overall continuous testing process. Throughout the webinar, I'm going to run two specific demos. One of them is going to be running Protractor JavaScript in the Perfecto cloud. Hopefully it works smoothly. And also, I'm going to run a Selenium-based cross-browser test scenario using a BDD framework on top of. So these are the two demos. One is going to be fully code-based in JavaScript, and the second one is going to be code plus BDD, Gherkin-style demo, all in the Perfecto cloud. So let's dive into the personas and also the tools balance. So whoever is in the field of software testing, whether if you are a developer or a test engineer, you are doing testing today, okay? The only difference between the personas that are doing testing is A, the objective that they have in front of them, and B, the skill set that they have that also, influences the tools that they're going to use to create the test scripts. So obviously, when you're looking at the business tester persona, this is the manual tester, is mostly focused on exploratory testing, manual scenarios. However, it does not have the coding skills necessary to implement Selenium-based test automation or headless browser testing scenarios and stuff like that. The SDET, on the other side, is a functional test automation engineer, is a coding skilled persona. He knows how to use Selenium, Appium, Protractor, or Nightwatch, all the other code-based frameworks, and is the main, I would say, carrier of the load of test automation in today's landscape. The software developer, which is the third persona who is involved in testing, is the guy who is mostly doing unit testing, very basic and limited coverage-based test automation, but the developer is not really doing a lot of end-to-end and integration testing or functional testing and non-functional testing. He's mostly focused on unit and build acceptance testing. The developers in today's landscape are using still Selenium, but also headless browser testing, which are very, very common these days and are very easy to set up. Actually, this is a near zero setup for the developers to start using and getting value from. So what we see here, we see three different personas that at the end of the day wants to deliver above 80% test automation coverage, and they need to kind of split between them the balance, the load of the tools. In many cases, the load or the sharing of responsibility looks far from what I'm showing right now on the screen. Okay? In today's reality, the business testers are actually doing too much or too many manual activities within the pipeline, and the developers are not really also taking too much on their shoulders, leaving the SDET, the test automation engineers, carrying too much of the load. And this is why, the average automation percentage today is, about 60% in good scenarios. In some other scenarios, it's even less or lower than 60%. With that level of automation, definitely you cannot shift towards the next level of DevOps and continuous testing, as well as implement a continuous delivery or continuous deployment, which is the higher level of software delivery. So in today's landscape, there shouldn't be too many excuses. There are tools like Cucumber BDD. Perfecto provides on its own two low-code or no-code solutions. One of them is the Quantum BDD framework. The other one is the Perfecto codeless, which is a codeless Selenium tool. Selenium IDE, it's a plugin, a free plugin from the browser, on the browser that you can start using to record and play back Selenium scripts. Okay, so there are low-code or no-code tools in the market today that business testers can actually take to put some perspective, to put some automation in their day-to-day activities. The software developers and the SDETs are still using and should still use the API testing frameworks, tools like JUnit, Selenium, Protractor, WebDriver.io, and also a growing tool which is Cypress.io, which I will touch also during this webinar. So what the point on this slide is, try and do a more collaborative strategy when you involve all the different practitioners, but also match the tools to their skill set, like I mentioned or I'm demonstrating in this slide. Whatever works for you on the left end, which is the Selenium of the world, keep it as is. The ones that are flaky, the test scenarios that are flaky, the test scenarios that are not automated, shift them towards the business testers, allow them to take part in the test automation by leveraging the low and no code tools. And whatever needs to be left manual, that's fine. Some test cases were meant to be manual. Okay? So this is the reality. This is the optimized balance that I recommend moving forward. With that in mind, let's see what we have in front of us today, and then see how this fits in today's different persona or the reality of continuous testing. So what we are seeing in today's reality from a trending perspective, we see that a lot of the mobile capabilities are invading the web domain. We see browsers like Safari and Chrome starting to get more and more capabilities that typically were mobile focused, like push notifications, offline storage and caching, sensors activities like microphone and camera, locations, okay? All of these things which are very mobile-centric capabilities are already built into the browser. The latest Safari and the Chrome already supports such capabilities, and this is where applications which were shifted from responsive towards progressive are leveraging such capabilities and closing the gap between mobile and browsers. So if you are into consolidating technologies, moving from separated mobile native and responsive to a single code base, progressive is becoming a real thing in the market. A lot of big enterprises today already shifted and are shifting their technologies, their digital technologies, towards the progressive web implementation, which can work on mobile and web, but also allow rich engagement through sensors on the mobile device. So check it out if you didn't see it up until today. You can search progressive with the keyword Perfecto or my name. You will find plenty of best practices on how to get started with progressive testing and technologies. So this is something that is happening today and will obviously become more, standard in 2020, next year. With regards to the market, we are seeing, I would say, a struggle, or I would say disruption, that's the better word, between codeless technologies, which are based on machine learning, record and playback, and the traditional open source tools. So we are seeing cross-browser testing teams, which includes all the different personas that I mentioned earlier, looking at tools such as Gauge from ThoughtWorks, Cypress.io, the headless browsers from Google, Puppeteer, Nightwatch, Protractor, WebDriver, Selenium, obviously, Concept.js, Cucumber BDD. These are all open source, or at least they have a flavor of an open source. Cypress can also be a commercial tool, if you like. But these are the main tools. There are also a few others that I will mention later that are now competing against the codeless tools, such as the Perfecto codeless Selenium, the Selenium IDE, Mabel, and Testing. These are the main tools in the cross-browser domain that are codeless and are either disrupting the open source domain or are aiming to complement. And in my mind, or in my recommendation strategy, I wouldn't look at these two as a competitive in a competitive angle, but mostly as one complementing the other. Keep in mind the different personas and the different skills. The business testers will not be able to carry these kind of frameworks and maintain Selenium scripts in Java or JavaScript. This is a given. But if you want to think about a win-win situation, this is where you actually allow these guys to take some codeless approach and bake it into the code-based approach, so you get better collaboration between the teams and also higher degree of test automation coverage. And if the previous slide wasn't enough, this is how, this month's trending looks like in the cross-browser open source domain. What you can see today, and I only picked the main leading open source frameworks, and if you're not familiar with this website called NPM Trends, I strongly recommend that you bookmark this website, and you can actually play with the frameworks that you want to compare between. Okay, you have Protractor, Nightwatch, WebDriver.io, Casper.js, which is an acceptance testing JavaScript framework. You have Robot, which is a long time in the field, in the market, Concept.js, Puppeteer, which is a headless browser testing solution, Selenium, obviously, Test Cafe, and Cypress. What you can see from a download trending perspective, and by the way, if you double click on this graph, you can actually also see from a repository perspective in GitHub how many branches, how many contributors and documentations and many other parameters are associated with each and every framework, which are also contributors to your decision-making process. So obviously Selenium is, by the way, is the foundation for many of the frameworks that I'm listing here. This is why I will never put Selenium outside of the picture. Selenium is the de facto solution for cross-browser test automation. Okay? But you see Perfecto, which is built on top of Selenium and is perfectly fit to enable testing of Angular JS application, Angular framework-based application on the web. Puppeteer is the third one, which, by the way, is just now topping Perfecto from a download perspective. Puppeteer is the headless browser testing solution, which enables you to, without any setup, to implement JavaScript-based test automation with a built-in latest Chrome version that Google provides you. So you do not need to build any local Selenium grid or anything in the cloud. You can just download the package. If you're a developer, you can download Puppeteer and start scripting in a very short amount of time. Cypress.io is a newer tool which is gaining momentum. Look at how close it is to the Perfecto and Puppeteer from a download perspective, and this is very new tool. So the trends are showing, this shift. WebDriver.io is, following behind, but is not as powerful as Perfecto, and Cypress obviously not as powerful as Selenium. So if you look at this slide and you want to have one takeaway, continuously, at least on a quarterly basis, monitor the market, okay? Understand what is the shift, where teams and practitioners are focusing on, because this is where you will get the most value from. Because if you are stuck with an outdated framework, like Phantom.js or other frameworks which were, fading away from the market, you won't get any additional support. And we are now hearing that Mozilla Firefox is going to be even more agile than Google. Mozilla just announced that it's going to release on a monthly basis a GA version of the Firefox browser. Okay, starting January of 2020, every month you are going to need to get access to the latest Firefox GA, because that's the cadence that Mozilla is releasing their browsers. So if your test automation framework is unable to keep up with the releases of the browsers such as Mozilla and Chrome, of course, Apple Safari, you will be in a very serious problem. Your script will either be broken or you won't get access to a lot of the capabilities that are being introduced in the new browser. With that, I want to segment additional framework, which are, some of them are underlying frameworks that are used by Selenium and the others that I mentioned in the previous slide, but these frameworks are also can be used standalone, mostly in JavaScript. This is the main slide of JavaScript frameworks categorized by the different jobs that they are set to do. The source of this information is medium.com. I strongly recommend that you also bookmark this kind of knowledge, because, if you are into a BDD, ATDD practice, Mocha, Jasmine, Jest, Cucumber obviously are the tools for you. If you are trying to implement a lot of assertions, you want to be familiar with Chai and Jasmine as well. If you want to get, code coverage reports, because there are so many tools here, Istanbul is a very cool JavaScript open source framework that you can bake into your code, so it will report back the level of code coverage that you get from your test automation. And there are a bunch of other tools here. Some of them are, mocking related tools like Sign-On and Jasmine and Enzyme. So you want to be familiar with these tools. Some of them, again, are baked into a lot of frameworks such as Perfecto and Selenium and Nightwatch. Some are standalone, like Istanbul. So feel free to check these out and see what fits your, or can close some of the gaps that you have today. The role of headless browser testing, which complements the functional and non-functional testing, is becoming more and more important. And you have seen the Puppeteer trend. You've seen how many downloads Puppeteer is getting over the past few months. headless browsers allows you with almost zero setup to get access to a browser without needing to get IT support or anything else. And this is very good to get quick implementation of testing with fast feedback without environmental dependencies and setup like that, with additional benefits such as HAR files, performance metrics, security audits, and stuff like that. So if you look at Google Puppeteer or Mozilla, which also has a headless browser solution, I think you will get a nice complementary test coverage, especially if you are a developer. I would say test automation engineers will mostly look at the bigger picture of end-to-end testing, functional end-to-end testing, integration testing, and stuff like that. But if you are a developer, I think these tools which are growing, in the past you only had Phantom.js, which was end of life. Now you're looking at Google Puppeteer, at Mozilla Firefox headless browsers, at also Edge by Microsoft, which provides a headless version of the browser. You can actually get some nice benefits of implementing some headless browser testing in your overall test automation strategy, and the maintenance is going to be much simpler than a full Selenium grid that you will build. If to summarize a lot of the things that I've said up until now, what you can look at from a consideration perspective in selecting open source, also even commercial tools, are the following. So what's the level of community size and the support? What's the level of documentation that you have in front of you? Does the test automation framework fit your skill set, your integration, your processes in the organization, any plugins that you have in the backend that needs to work with the framework? Okay? How is the level of reporting that you have within the tools? Okay? The automation coverage. How many scenarios can you accomplish or automate with the open source framework? Not every framework gives the same level of support for all the different functionalities. Okay, obviously, if you go to the headless browser framework, it cannot accomplish everything that Protractor will do. Okay, there are differences. Okay, but these frameworks are not set to do the same things. Okay, each framework has their own objective. And by the way, if you are starting to get my point here, in today's cross-browser testing reality, in my mind, there is no single framework that can fit the entire organization, especially when you're differentiating the different personas and jobs to be done. So my gut feeling and actually my experience shows that if you want to be successful in cross-browser testing today, you need to look at a mix of these frameworks and these frameworks as a one single test automation strategy, by the way, including the codeless ones in the market, just to get the maximum value and also return on investment from your overall continuous testing activities. You can look and double-click on the previous slide and see some more, granular characteristics or considerations around each bucket. So from an automation coverage, does the test automation framework allow you to take screenshots, get you the HAR file that you are very, very interested in from both performance metrics and security? Okay? Can it do memory and performance profiling? Can it provide code coverage analysis? Okay? Which testing types can it do? Just unit, functional, security, etc. Does it fit your SDLC from a plugin and ATDD, BDD perspective, if this is what you are implementing in your organization? What's the level of reliability and setup of the framework? Can it support page object model creation? Okay, is it a synchronized or an asynchronous test automation framework? Does it come with a set of reporters? And more and more. So this is, just one double click. If you go and double click this bucket, you'll find even more granular considerations. But this is how I would look at strategizing cross-browser testing within an organization, especially in today's reality when you have responsive web, progressive web, mobile web, so many types of applications within the organization. You need to have this tool set and consideration list in front of you at any given time. Let's do one stop, and I will try and share my screen and show you how you can successfully connect a Protractor basic test to the Perfecto cloud. So the Perfecto cloud, if you're not familiar with, Perfecto is a cloud-based solution, enables you to do mobile native application testing and cross-browser desktop application testing, all software as a service. You don't need to download anything. We have a Selenium grid set up for you in the cloud with all the different permutations of browsers and mobile devices, real devices in different locations in the world, allowing you to take almost any framework that I have shown you in the presentation so far and connect it like you would connect to any Selenium grid. You can connect it to Perfecto cloud. So if you look at the current JavaScript configuration file. So this is the cons.js file. This is a simple configuration file in JavaScript, and the only thing which I needed to do here was to provide the Selenium address, which is the Selenium grid in the Perfecto cloud, my security token, and my username. Then I need to provide my platform that I want to test. I want to test in this regard an Android device with a website and an iOS iPhone X with Safari. And the test that I want to execute is a very simple one. I want to go to softwaretestinghelp.com, validate the title, and search for Perfecto. Okay? That's what I want to do. To do so, what I'm doing, I'm running protractor cons.js. Before that, what I will do, I will open the reporting and analytics portal just so I can show you live in the dashboard what's going on. Now that the cloud is connecting and the analyze and reporting dashboard is on, I will simply trigger the execution by running protractor cons.js. Cons.js was the file that I've shown you. Immediately you will see in the live stream two WebDriver sessions being opened, one with the iPhone X, and if it works, I should also see a session of the Android device. For the iPhone, what you will see right now is, the Safari browser going to the software testing help and searching for Perfecto. That's a very simple test that is going to run. The device is not launching fully. The device is now busy. I'll probably see it in my report. You see here, it was typing Perfecto, and it is going to fail because there is a pop-up which I didn't take care of. I knew about it. I wanted this test to show that the pop-up was not clicked on. So this was a very short scenario of just going via protractor JavaScript to the website and running it across two different devices, which one of them wasn't available, okay? The Safari on iPhone X and the other Samsung Galaxy S6, okay? Once this is done, okay, what you will see, you see here the device wasn't found, okay? This is what I was actually trying to show you, which is the root cause analysis baked into the Perfecto reporting, okay? I was executing against my cloud one test against an iPhone X and on a Samsung S6. What you were able to see is that one iPhone X was found in the cloud and it was executed. The other one, and imagine that the execution was triggered from the CI, okay, which is kind of a black box testing for me. And I was coming in the morning or after the execution. This is a very useful parameter that is added in the report, letting me know, listen, the test didn't fail. The test actually didn't even run because the device wasn't available for the execution. Now I know, okay, iPhone was taken care of. I need to execute again my Android and continue my execution, okay? I could have taken care of that in many other ways, but this is one way of the Perfecto reporting supporting, root cause analysis and actually removing noise from my pipeline. With that, let me move back to the presentation, okay? And in the next demo, I'll actually show you the quantum BDD. So let's do some high-level comparison between what's out there in the market, okay? And not that's kind of an exhaustive table, but I was trying to actually take a lot of the previous slides and make them more digestible to you guys online. And it's still not a full completed table. You can take it and double click on many items here depending on your project requirements and get more insights. But I was trying to put at least a high level comparison items between the different tools. And the way I built the table, I took the Selenium WebDriver of the world, I took Cypress, which is a trending framework, I took the codeless tools of the world, and the ones that are BDD by nature, okay? Then I looked at the supported development languages. I looked at the skill sets that are required to operate these frameworks, the browsers that are supported by the frameworks, the test frameworks that are supported by the tools, the setup and execution capabilities, integrations, what kind of testing types these tools are best associated with, the maturity of the tools, the skill set that is kind of an aggregation of many of the things prior to this column, and also the execution at scale. If you want to burst and scale up your execution, what kind of options do you have? So if you look at the Selenium WebDriver, so Selenium is by far the leading tool in the market today. You can script Selenium, and I will show you later in this webinar, via Java, C#, JavaScript, Python, Ruby, and also Objective-C. It supports all the browsers. It has the bindings to work with any language and any browser that you can think of, okay? It supports a large variety of test frameworks. Some frameworks were actually built on top of Selenium. Even the Appium for mobile was built on top of Selenium, but Protractor, WebDriver.io, Mocha.js, Jest, all the other frameworks, by the way, which you have seen earlier in my presentation, are fully supported and actually deriving from Selenium. The setup and execution is kind of a pain, and I will show you how you run it with Perfecto and what the pain that you need to go through with Selenium. So Selenium, you can either build locally in-house with one browser, or you can download a bunch of drivers for each of the different browsers and build your own Selenium grid in-house. The problem with that is that you need to continuously maintain it. Going back to my comment about Firefox Mozilla, you get every month a new version of Chrome and Firefox, okay? To implement or to upgrade a virtual machine to a new browser, in most cases, requires you to get local IT, CIO, depending on your organization, approval to do so. It's definitely not the same day that the browser is being launched to the market, okay? And once you get it, you need to debug it, and you want to make sure that it works and it's connecting and doesn't disrupt any other Selenium grid artifacts that you already have. So the setup and execution requires A, technical skills, and B, IT support in an ongoing basis, which is a lot of the times a delay and a bottleneck to your overall testing process. From an integration standpoint, Selenium integrates with everything CI/CD related. The reporting is a pain. The reporting is kind of basic when you look at Selenium. If you go back to my previous demo, you've seen how a Selenium execution or a Protractor execution looks like on a mature dashboard, which shows you machine learning-based root cause analysis, history of test execution, plug into Jira from the report, recording, which includes videos and screenshots, HAR files. All of these are not accessible out of the box when you're starting with Selenium. You need to either build these on your own or get someone to buy some kind of a solution that you will plug in. It's not a one-off for you. With regard to the testing types, Selenium supports end-to-end testing, functional testing, non-functional testing, security, unit, and many more. It is based and baked actually for many years on a robust community with multiple bindings and best practices. So Selenium is not by any chance where it is because it's a good framework. It's a good framework, but also it's a good framework that is fully supported by a large community, which makes it so powerful as it is. The downside of that, you need to be very technical to work with Selenium, okay? And I'm not talking about writing in a hello world or going to software testing help like the demo I showed you. I'm talking about very advanced scripting skills, which includes a lot of dynamic objects and properties and iframes and, hybrid applications, progressive applications, and you can go on and on. So in today's market, when you have very sophisticated websites that can work on both mobile devices and websites and have sophisticated user experience add-ons, you need strong coding skills to build test automation that works and it's reliable time after time. With regard to cloud and execution, and I will show you pretty soon, I actually showed you the protractor support. I will also show you Selenium with BDD. Perfecto integrates perfectly with any Selenium type or flavor that is out there. You simply point your Selenium grid to Perfecto Cloud, and that's your Selenium grid from now on. Any VM, any parallel execution that you need, it's set up for you as a service in the cloud, and you get all the different reports. So you want to burst, you want to scale up, it's fully integrated with Selenium. That's the Perfecto Cloud. There are also other cloud vendors which also obviously provide support for Selenium. I won't get into this in this webinar. The next one is Cypress.io. In the beginning, I wasn't sure if I want to include it in the comparison, but it's a reality. People are adopting Cypress, and they are maturing their test automation of complementing Selenium with Cypress. Cypress is not the only tool that you can succeed with when you're doing Selenium end-to-end testing, just because it's still growing, it's still maturing, and it doesn't have the support for everything that you need. For one, it only supports JavaScript, and JavaScript is the de facto language for coding across browsers, but it's not the only language that you have in your organization. People are scripting Selenium with Python a lot, with Ruby, okay, and in Java or C#. So JavaScript is the only language that Cypress works with. It's not a big limitation, but it's a limitation, okay? The browsers that Cypress today supports, and I know that they're working to add more browsers in the near future, is Chrome and Electron. Chrome is the leading browser, but again, what about the rest? You need to complement Cypress.io with other Selenium-based framework or codeless framework to get the full coverage across the different browsers. The only framework that supports or is supported by Cypress is Mocha, for all the different assertions and the command creation in JavaScript. So Mocha is baked into Cypress.io. I say the biggest benefit that we see with Cypress is that it comes with a bundled Chrome browser, and this allows you to avoid unnecessary setup. So if you want to just download the NPM from Git and start setting up or running your first Cypress JavaScript test automation scenario, you can do it much faster than the time it would take you to do it with Selenium, just because you do not need to set any local Selenium grid or cloud grid. You just start typing or using an example that is baked into the Cypress.io package, and you run it against the built-in Chrome. Like you would do, by the way, with Google Puppeteer. Google Puppeteer is also a package that you would download and start running your test because it's a built-in environment. What it means is when it's built-in environment, it also allows you to execute much faster, okay? Because you do not need to do the back and forth networking between the IDE and the browser, whether it's local or in the cloud. So that's an advantage that Cypress has. It has limited integration. Not all the integrations that you see with Selenium are available in Cypress. CI is available, but not many more. It's good for end-to-end testing. It has good documentation and a growing community that is supporting Cypress. So I'm sure that if we check this picture in 6 months or 10 months from today, we will see maybe more checks in the different cells in the table, especially in the supported browsers and in the documentation. Obviously, it's JavaScript. You need to know how to write code. You cannot avoid that. It requires code. Again, from a scaling perspective, it's limited. And by the way, Perfecto is looking into integrating to Cypress and helping them solve the limitation in scaling the execution. Okay, so that's Cypress. Codeless, and I've shown you in one of the previous slides that the market today is going towards codeless as a complementary solution to Selenium and Cypress, if you like. So you do not need to know how to write code. It's based on record and playback. It's either a plugin in the browser or a browser-based UI. You do not need to download tools for that, especially with Perfecto Codeless. It's baked into the solution. But it has a proprietary UI, which supports underneath the Selenium APIs. The limitation around integrations and documentation are still valid. I know that at least from Perfecto perspective, we are working to close as many gaps as we know around codeless, especially on the documentation side and the integrations. It's perfectly fine for UI and functional testing. It's less, an end-to-end advanced testing solution. But again, the business tester, which do not have coding skills, will definitely leverage automating a lot of the manual test cases, which are not Selenium-based, using codeless. And again, we have this in the cloud together with Selenium, so you can actually enjoy both worlds by having both Selenium, Protractor, and the likes together with codeless. The next and last one in my comparison is the BDD frameworks of the world. BDD fully supports Java, Ruby, Kotlin, and JavaScript. It supports all the browsers. It supports a lot of frameworks such as JUnit, Selenium, and Appium as well for mobile. The execution is quite easy, but again, you still need to have a decent level of technical skills to set it up, and also need the automation engineers or developer support to implement step definitions in code to support your Gherkin style testing scenarios. Perfecto Quantum is one version of Cucumber that connects to its cloud, allow you to do both mobile and cross-browser testing with limited to no coding skills that are required. So with that, and before I move to the test data visibility role, I would like to actually run right now for you the demo on Quantum BDD, and let's see that it works. Okay, so what you can see right now on my screen, and I will hide the other users right now that are using the cloud. What you can see here, this is the Quantum BDD. If you go to projectquantum.io, this is the website. It links to the Git repository. You simply download it. You'll get a Quantum Starter kit to start working with. The Quantum Starter kit, which is a BDD, again, environment, allows you to build a common page object model, okay, which you can put all the different DOM-related objects that can be used across the different scenarios. So that's a common artifact that any script in your project structure can use, which is quite useful. You will need an application properties to define your cloud URL with Perfecto, the username, and the security token. That's the only setup that you need to do after you download the Quantum project. Then you can start scripting. Again, it's a scripting in Gherkin with the syntax of given, when, then. Basically, when you look at the different scenarios, you have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenarios under the web annotation that is actually doing multiple Google searches. Few of them are data-driven, few of them are simple and direct through Google, and the execution configuration is done through test-ng. Okay, the test-ng simply takes any web annotation scenarios and execute them against a Galaxy, an iPhone, and a Windows 10 Chrome 70 edition in the East Coast in the Perfecto cloud. Okay? The only thing that is also important to mention is that if you see here, given I am on a Google search page, when I search for, etc., these are all step definitions that in this scenario, or in this case, are baked into the Quantum project as a reference for you to use. But if not, you need your developer to help you implement them. So this is the pure Selenium in Java implementation. So if you recall in the Quantum or in the BDD Gherkin syntax, I had a function called given I am on the Google search page. So basically when I'm on the Google search page, the code underneath which is executed is this function which actually simply goes through the WebDriver to the Google home, google.com homepage, and then when I search for a specific attribute, it will do the search. So when I'm going to execute it, right now, this is going to launch 3 platforms for me. It's going to launch an iPhone, if you remember in the TestNG data provider configuration. It's going to run an iPhone and a desktop browser machine, the Chrome. So we can see already an iPhone 7 being launched. We'll soon see, depending on the cloud availability, the Windows 10 with a Chrome machine, and we see a Samsung Galaxy. We see 3 platforms running in parallel with a Selenium web. This is, if you like, a mobile website, and you see the execution starting right now across these different devices. I can also go to my cloud now, and I can go to the live stream, and I will see all the different remote web drivers actually in action in this report. So you can see the execution going on from both the IDE, the IntelliJ IDE, but also from the cloud, from the reporting environment. And what you can see here is the live video, the execution, everything that is going on, the Windows 10 machine here that is running, and I can also go to the report library in parallel, and see what's going on right now. I can filter by the latest report and see what's being executed. You see all the remote web driver scenarios are being executed, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the Quantum project running tests in parallel with Selenium, with a full dashboard report that you can see and visualize or share with your management while it's running. And it's a semi-technical solution. We have seen in the earlier phase of this webinar the Perfecto demo, which is fully JavaScript, fully code-based. We are seeing now a mix of code-based Selenium Java and Gherkin BDD, or you can just have the Selenium like that for the entire project for you running against the Selenium grid in the Perfecto cloud. Okay, so this will continue to run. It has a lot of test cases here in the project. We can go towards the end of the webinar and examine the report. But for now, let's go back to the presentation and continue with the test data visibility role. So I think that you have seen in the previous demos that while I'm executing my test with Selenium, with Protractor, or with a Quantum BDD solution, you can monitor them within the live stream, but that's just one component, okay? The other components, which in my mind are becoming essential, especially when you are implementing continuous testing. Continuous testing is not just a buzzword. Continuous testing is attributed to one of the biggest test data generation in today's reality. You are generating a lot of data that you need to process, that you need to analyze in a very short amount of time just to make sense out of that and get a smarter decision how to move forward based on the results. If you do not have the abilities to move fast and smart, you will simply, and I know from practitioners in the market, some of them are running a regression cycle which is very robust. It's fully automated. It takes them 9 hours. Okay, this is a very good timeline for a full regression suite. Okay, But the thing is, it takes them almost 3 working days for one engineer to simply scan through the entire set of results and get the filter of the only bugs that are available, filter the noise from the real issues. And that's a pain. This is time that you simply don't have in a DevOps environment. So you want to understand and ask yourself, a few questions. These are just few. Things about the flakiness of your testing. Are you handling properly the pop-ups? Are you utilizing the lab in the right way? Are you scheduling the devices with the timeline of your CI executions? You have seen my demo with Perfecto. I didn't do it, but I didn't do it intentionally, just to show you that a device was in use, and the report was able to capture that, showing you, how you can filter out such noise and actually implement some best practices around that. Working properly with elements. If you're not working properly with elements and you do not see that in the reports, you're going to spend a lot of time debugging and analyzing your Selenium scripts. Okay? I mentioned pop-ups, I mentioned elements, I mentioned platform-specific issues. Some devices or desktop browsers work differently. So the ability to use things like heat maps, like we have in Perfecto, definitely were built to tackle this specific issue, understanding what is the root cause of an issue that simply works fine on an iPhone or doesn't work on a Chrome with Windows 10. Okay, especially when you're looking at responsive web, the comparison between platforms is definitely a key thing for you in the overall process of testing. Okay, the platform and CI errors, this is an additional thing, and I think I have a slide for that to show you how a CI dashboard that we have baked into the report can help you see bottlenecks in your CI pipeline. Okay? And you can actually look at other features here that can power your test data visibility, things like keywords, keyword searches, filtering, allocating specific defects to bugs, showing history of test failures or passing cadence and stuff like that. The additional beauty of the test data visibility, and this is one of Perfecto customers that was running over 1.3 million test cases just in less than 2 months. You can see here the cadence. In less than 2 months, it was generating over 1.3 million test executions. This is huge, okay? From this execution, you see that it got a lot of failures, but imagine it's a huge team. But look at the different keywords and root cause or blocked reasons that A, came with Perfecto, and B, were added by the client to simply allow him to filter out all the noise and focus only on the right things. And in addition, look at the different automation frameworks that were used by the different teams for this client, showing the nice collaboration between developers that were using Espresso, business testers that were using codeless, and developers of software developer in testing that were using Selenium and XUI test frameworks for the test automation. So this is a nice summary example of execution at scale across different platforms, across different test frameworks with nice data visibility to get some sense out of all the investments in test automation. To summarize all this webinar, I would just want to give the mantra that I believe in that is crucial to continuous testing in DevOps success. And I think I've shown you, demonstrated to you in this webinar. So from a creation standpoint, you need to have the ability to create reliable test cases. In my mind, the creation, especially in today's world, whether it's mobile or web, even though this webinar is all about web and cross-browser testing, mobile is not outside of the picture. We are all in a digital landscape today. You need the ability to test with multiple creation tools. Some of them may be codeless, some will be JavaScript, some will be C# or Objective-C. The ability to create tests in a single environment that matches the skill set is the fundamental requirement for continuous testing. Next is the execution and the lab. The execution is the ability to scale and orchestrate so you do not run into each other feet, if you like, when you're scheduling your testing, okay? The ability to execute with different scales, so with different frameworks such as TestNG, XUI test, codeless, and the rest. And you've seen in the previous slide the 1.3 million executions. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. The execution across frameworks, across platforms, with a very robust orchestration coming from the CI, okay, is another key pillar and requirement for continuous testing. The lab is the backbone of everything. If you don't have a stable environment to execute your test against, you will simply fail, okay? You can build as much as robust test automation script as you want, but if the backbone of your execution is unstable, it's outdated, it cannot scale and burst as you like, okay? It's not enterprise grade from a security perspective, it simply won't work, and we see it day in and day out. Finally, it's the fourth pillar, which is the analysis. The ability to get fast feedback with root cause analysis, like I've shown you in the previous demos, allows you to move faster, get value from your test automation, get value from your entire investment in software development. So that's the fourth pillar of success, if you like. Perfecto provides all-in-one as a unified solution with smart creation across all the different frameworks, with execution in the cloud, full orchestration, a lab that is fully enterprise-grade, secure, with VPN access and other tunnels, with smart analysis and analytics based on machine learning, and all the other supporting pillars to allow you to be a successful customer using Perfecto. Dedicated customer success manager, 24/7 support, training skill set with professional services and black belts. All of these are fully given to you guys as customers of Perfecto. With that, I would like to leave time for some Q&A, and I know that we're getting tons of questions in the background. I've covered a lot of ground today, and I really hope that it gave you also value back. So let's allocate time to at least a subset of the questions, the ones that we cannot address today. I will follow up with all of you after the webinar. Shelly, do we have any some time for at least one or two questions just before we wrap up?
Yes, we do. Our first question from the audience asks, what do you think should be the right balance between test automation frameworks?
That's a great question, and I think that during this webinar, I hope that I addressed at least part of it. So the balance seriously depends on the objective of the team and the skill set. Okay, there's no one size that fits all. You will see a customer that can be perfectly successful with 60, 70, or 80% test automation just using Selenium. Okay, depending on where he's going, maybe he's not releasing on a weekly basis. He releases on maybe twice a year or 3 times a year his website version, and this leaves him enough time to work with Selenium, make reliable testing work for him, bake it into the CI, and stuff like that, which is fine. On the other hand, there are customers which are much more mature that includes a mix of practitioners with different skill sets, and in this case, the balance will be different. In this balance, the balance for these guys, I would recommend, will include Selenium of the world, like Selenium or Perfecto or stuff like that, together with maybe codeless or BDD type of testing, which will allow the business testers to also support test automation. And all in all, this comes together towards the same goal of high mature test automation that is reliable. And I think the key word that I was missing earlier is value. You need to get value from a test automation, and value is not about the capacity or the how much test cases are you able to automate. It's about what you can automate, which brings you the highest value.
Great, and I think the last question that we have time for today is, how can I monitor my cross-browser test automation stability?
Okay, yeah, that's a perfect question, and I think this is a challenge to many of clients that I'm actually meeting on a daily basis. When I'm on stage, I'm getting asked similar questions. And it kind of relates to KPIs, metrics, and measurements, because if you want to be successful, you cannot measure what you cannot see. So I think upfront, and some organizations may not set these KPIs when they started the project, so doing it retroactively will also be fine, but you need to agree across the different buyers in the organization, across the different counterparts, about key metrics that make sense to you. Okay, it can be the CI success rate, the flakiness, the automation coverage, again, the ones that are giving you value, the time it takes you to fix a defect, okay, the time it takes you to identify a defect from the moment it was actually injected into the code. So these are some key metrics that I'm seeing in many successful organizations. So monitoring the success starts with setting the right goals and metrics. These metrics, some of them I just listed, you can put your own if you like, but also you need to put metrics that are achievable, and B, that you can actually monitor. So the question came with, how can I monitor? You need to have the visibility to be able to monitor these kind of things. And I've shown you in the previous slides how with a smart reporting and analytics solution, Perfecto builds it. If you have your own, it's fine, but you need something that is similar to that to answer these monitoring questions. You need to know or to see how the CI is performing over time. You need to see the root cause analysis to understand the flakiness percentage you have in your test automation coverage and stuff like that. You need to see platform-specific issues to understand if you are targeting the right automation scripts in your regression cycle, and we can go on and on. So the answer is set the goals, set the metrics, make sure that you have the ability to visualize these metrics on an ongoing basis. This will be the answer to your question. And with that, I think, Shelby, we are on time, or even just slightly over time, but I think it was a very good spend of the time, at least from my end, and I hope from the audience as well. So I would like to wrap up this webinar. Thank everyone that attended and registered. As mentioned, we will share with you guys both the recording and the slides, and we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar from Perfecto. Thank you so much.